Carson Daly is the one single human being who defined early-aughts MTV, and he did it one black-painted fingernail and slow pan to the screaming fans outside of Viacom's Times Square offices at a time. In the summer of 2018, Hayden Panettiere split from her longtime fiancé, professional boxer Wladimir Klitschko. In a distant world where MTV still played music videos, Daly was the type of celeb who dated early noughties it girls like Jennifer Love Hewitt and Reid, but that's not who the star ultimately settled down with. When the MTV VJ graduated to a serious career as a late-night TV host, he met his wife Siri Pinter, a regular person whose name had not yet entered the tabloid's lexicon. According to E! News, the pair had been engaged since 2013, though they never set a wedding date, and welcomed daughter Kaya in 2014. This breakup wasn't entirely a shock to paparazzi and gossip rags alike, who spotted the star without her ring 2 years before. At the time, Panettiere brushed off the Splitsville rumors. She wasn't chased by paparazzi. Her plastic surgery blunders haven't plagued her career for years, if she's even ever gotten so much as a vial of Botox, to begin with. When they finally called it quits, it didn't take long for the Nashville star to move on. The writer is wildly low-key, and so is her marriage to the television host. The pair have quietly been raising their 4 kids in Long Island. As Daly once sweetly described to Elle, his relationship is living proof that the good guys win. The most shocking part about it is just how long the couple has managed to endure in an industry built on tearing relationships apart. Carson Daly dodged a bullet with Reid. Y2K was a simpler time, one where NSYNC was kicking off the decade with Millennium, and Reid had yet to have the disastrous nip-slip heard round the world. It was that year that Carson Daly got down on one knee and proposed to the American Pie It girl. Daly and Reid's love story could have very well defined a decade. According to ABC News, they first locked eyes during a serendipitous MTV spring break in 2000 after the Millennium Bug didn't spiral civilization into chaos. In fact, it seemed as though she had already checked out of the relationship before news of the breakup hit the tabloids, and the Daily Mail caught her walking barefoot while holding hands with a mystery man. Klitschko was nowhere in sight. That mystery man turned out to be Brian Hickerson, a South Carolina-bred real estate agent and Hollywood hopeful. Like the doomsday preppers who flooded GeoCities with debunked conspiracies, perhaps the pair felt they had a new lease on life. The world didn't end, and so it continued with screaming fans outside of TRL. Just 7 months after spring break, the pair were engaged and sharing an NYC apartment. ABC News reports that Reid ended up postponing their summer nuptials to film The Guest, but the couple ultimately cancelled it for good in 2001 and went their separate ways. The couple subsequently embarked on a tumultuous relationship that lasted about a year and a half. Today, Daly considers it a blessing. Though they ultimately went their separate ways following a traumatic domestic violence arrest in February 2020, their romance regularly graced headlines for legal drama that was serious enough to worry Panettiere's family. In an interview with Elle, the TV personality admitted, "To some extent, I dodged a bullet. I was getting serious about my career, and she wanted to shoot movies and just party in her time off." Here's a breakdown of what actually led to the split. Hayden Panettiere's relationship with Brian Hickerson seemed like a promising rebound. Brian Hickerson and Hayden Panettiere got off to a good start. It seemed like a healthy rebound from the TV star's 9-year relationship with Wladimir Klitschko. That didn't work for me. After the experience of dating Reid, Daly decided he wanted to date a regular person who shared his same values. Enter Siri Pinter. Carson Daly is friends with this ex. Time heals all wounds, and that really rings true for Carson Daly. As far as the tabloids were concerned, the real estate agent swooped in on a white horse, or, more realistically, an Uber, in August 2018 for their public debut. At the time, TMZ called him a knight in shining ball cap for whisking the former Heroes actress out of the WeHo restaurant Craig's and away from the paparazzi. According to a report from Us Weekly, the pair had already been quietly dating for a couple of months. Their relationship allegedly hinged on partying together and having fun. Later in August, the duo were caught at a screening of Breaking and Exiting, where Panettiere reportedly seemed very happy and in great spirits. It was a welcome breath of fresh air after Panettiere's brutal struggle with postpartum depression, which sent her to rehab for a second time.
Though the star has since settled down with longtime girlfriend Siri Pinter, he's managed to stay friends with his ex, and that says a lot considering the way they broke up. In the late 90s, Daly dated Jennifer Love Hewitt for a year right at the height of her Party of Five fame. According to the magazine source, she and Hickerson seemed cute together. A frightening 2018 incident set the tone for the relationship. It didn't take long for Hayden Panettiere and Brian Hickerson's relationship to be marred with bad press. She reportedly dumped him through her publicist, and he ended up finding out about their split when he tuned into The Howard Stern Show. "If we were going to break up officially like this, maybe we could have just talked about it. I don't see why you had to tell your publicist." In late October 2018, about 2 months after their relationship went public, the couple racked up tabloid headlines following an alleged domestic altercation that took place in Hickerson's native home state of South Carolina. "And now I have been publicly humiliated," he told the actress per E! News. Even with that, the pair formed a lasting friendship. During 2003's MTV Bash, Hewitt roasted Daly by reading one of his love letters before admitting, "Having you in my life was very important to me, and being your girlfriend was truly one of the best things I've ever had the honor to do." Daly officially put their breakup to rest during Hewitt's 2005 appearance on Last Call with Carson Daly. This would set the tone for the rest of their relationship. According to TMZ, who obtained the police report, officers responded to a call for assault and battery and found what appeared to be Hickerson chasing his father around the house with a Gatorade bottle in his hand. Hayden, who reportedly owned up to drinking with Hickerson's dad, frantically opened the door, and police immediately cuffed her new beau. "It ended a little weird, I got to be honest," he said. "It doesn't matter." The real estate agent was allegedly uncooperative, refusing to give any personal information because he was worried it'd negatively reflect on his actress girlfriend. "You know I love you." In recent years, they're still tight. His father was reportedly bleeding and severely bruised on his face, but claimed to have just fallen over. Per Us Weekly's report, Hickerson was adamant that he didn't assault his father, but he did admit that they got into an argument because his father had been drinking too much. The report claimed that Panettiere and Hickerson's dad were both intoxicated, which Panettiere denied, according to TMZ. Though Hickerson was clearly riled up, allegedly trembling and flexing his body, both Panettiere and Hickerson's dad were adamant that they were fine and didn't need police intervention. Things moved really fast with Brian Hickerson just 6 months into Hayden Panettiere's new relationship with Brian Hickerson. She already had marriage on the mind. Hewitt posted a throwback photo of the pair from the MTV VMAs in 2018. Carson Daly and Siri Pinter's romance was an office secret. Carson Daly and Siri Pinter's romance was initially a secret, a forbidden office romance where the pair tried their best not to get caught. According to People, the couple first met in 2005 when Pinter was a writing assistant on Daly's late-night show Last Call, and there was an instant attraction. "She would walk into our meetings and I would look at the other dudes in the room, like, do you see what I see? It was undeniable," Daly told People. Clearly, this sort of romance would probably get some side-eye from HR, and that's just a best-case scenario where no one's reprimanded for dating their inferior, but it turned out to be the real deal. In an interview with Elle, Daly owned up to hiding their fling until they realized we were in love and it wasn't just an office romance. It took Carson Daly and Siri Pinter a decade to tie the knot, though it took all of 7 months for Carson Daly to pop the question to Reid. He took a way more cautious and slow approach with Siri Pinter. Though she was engaged to her baby's father in the not-so-distant past, the actress believed that what she shared with the real estate agent was rare. The pair didn't buy into societal pressures to tie the knot. According to Us Weekly, when they finally got engaged in 2013, they had been dating for 8 years and already had 2 kids, 3-year-old Jack and 13-month-old Etta Jones. Even before their engagement, Daly admitted the pair weren't really worried about getting married. When Us Weekly asked Panettiere whether she thought they'd tie the knot, she replied, "I think so. I hope so. I've lived a big life, I've met a lot of people. I learned something new from Brian every day, and that's something that not many people can provide me with," she told the magazine in February 2019. "I think long-lasting, healthy relationships are more important than the idea of marriage," he told Elle in 2012. The interview came just 3 months before the real estate agent was charged with felony domestic violence and 5 months after police showed up at their door following that alleged altercation with Hickerson's dad. At the time, the Nashville actress relished in their low-key hangs, which didn't always involve hurling over a railing after a night of hard partying. "I love being low-key, being mellow, having experiences, having conversations, really in-depth conversations," Panettiere said. "The brighter a star burns, the faster it burns out." Brian Hickerson was arrested for felony domestic violence in 2019. Brian Hickerson's second alleged domestic incident was even more harrowing than the first. At the root of every successful marriage is a strong partnership. And that's what we have. They didn't have a traditional year-long engagement, either. In May 2019, he was cuffed for domestic violence after spending a night out on the town with Hayden Panettiere. It took 2 years for Siri to walk down the aisle in a secret ceremony. The year prior, it didn't even seem like a wedding was a priority at all. "Our lives have been crazy," Daly told People in 2014. "We'll get married when we have time. The husband and wife thing is just the bow around something." According to TMZ, the couple had been out drinking one night before getting into a physical argument once they returned home. Someone called the cops, though at the time it wasn't clear who, and officers arrived at the scene at around 2 a.m. Sources who first spoke to TMZ claimed that Panettiere had redness and marks on her body, but these injuries allegedly proved to actually be much worse than originally reported. "Our end game is we want to be together forever. They don't sleep in the same bedroom." Carson Daly and Siri Pinter are divorced, at least divorced from sleeping in the same bed. According to Radar Online, the actress had injuries and bruises to her arms, ear, and neck area. Hickerson reportedly began the fight, and he was the one arrested almost immediately after the altercation and charged with felony domestic violence. He was released on a $50,000 bond, but was faced up to 4 years behind bars if convicted. Perhaps the secret to a long-enduring romance is to have your own bedroom far away from the kicking, turning, and loud breathing of a partner, and that's before you factor in their body heat radiating towards you like you're sleeping on the inside of a volcano. In an interview with People, Daly made the shocking admission that he started sleep divorcing his wife when she was pregnant with baby number 4. A separate TMZ report revealed that Hickerson pleaded not guilty. Alcohol seemed like a major issue in their relationship after Brian Hickerson's felony domestic violence arrest. More disturbing information came out. From the looks of it, alcohol was likely a major problem in Hayden Panettiere's relationship. According to OK! Magazine, the actress already sought treatment at a drug and alcohol rehab facility in 2016 when she was struggling to cope with postpartum depression. "We're both pretty good-sized humans and it just wasn't really working when she was in her 3rd trimester, and I also have sleep apnea, which is very sexy for the ladies out there, I'm sure," Carson said. "She couldn't get comfortable, so we were like a commercial you would see, kicking each other and just not sleeping. The couple unilaterally decided to just call it a day, or rather, a good night, on sharing a bed, and they never looked back, especially after their 4th child was born." Following her split from Wladimir Klitschko, she was spotted having what Radar Online dubbed a boozy breakdown. Per the report, the actress appeared to be vomiting over a railing outside of a restaurant in Malibu while Hickerson held her purse. Hickerson seemed to share the same dangerous affinity for hard partying. Carson, who wakes up at 3 a.m. according to Radar Online, the real estate agent had been wreaking havoc in their quiet neighborhood in Los Angeles prior to his May 2019 arrest. During one incident, he reportedly lost control of his SUV and smashed into at least 3 parked cars before driving into a neighbor's gate at around 2:30 a.m. to film Today. Didn't want to risk waking his wife and daughter, so he stayed in a separate room. He ultimately found that having more energy actually helped his relationship rather than hurt it. As Radar described it, Hickerson's car was completely turned around and wedged between a wooden gate and a car parked on the street. The accident was noisy enough to wake up said neighbors, and Hickerson allegedly begged them not to call the cops, pleading, "I'll buy you 12 cars." Meanwhile, a woman, who witnesses couldn't specifically identify as Panettiere, reportedly fled the scene. "I don't know if we'll ever sleep together again," he said. Carson Daly and Siri Pinter's wedding was a total surprise after a decade of waiting. You think a marriage would be a huge celebration, but this low-key couple didn't even send their parents a save the date. According to Today, Carson Daly and Siri Pinter tied the knot on Christmas Eve in a small, secret ceremony. By the time cops showed up to investigate the alleged DUI, Hickerson was apparently gone, too. "I wanted a hoverboard, I got a wife," Daly said, further elaborating that their families were visiting for the holidays, and they surprised their moms with the wedding. For the nuptials, Pinter kept things affordable and vaguely DIY. She didn't go for an expensive designer gown. There were no charges filed at the time. Hayden Panettiere had a protective order against Brian Hickerson after Brian Hickerson was charged with felony domestic violence in May 2019. He and Hayden Panettiere split up, if only because they legally had to. According to People, a judge issued a protective order against the real estate agent after Hickerson announced that he was pleading not guilty. His hearing was meant to happen at the end of June, so presumably, the couple had a good month-long break to think about the course of their clearly toxic relationship. As part of the protective order, Hickerson wasn't allowed to go within 100 yards of the Nashville actress. He also wasn't allowed to contact her, be it through phone, texts, or emails, or have firearms in his possession. According to Radar Online, the district attorney claimed that this was just a reported incident of domestic violence, and their relationship saw many other incidents that flew under the radar. At the hearing, more details came out, including that Hickerson reportedly hit her on the face, causing her to get dizzy. Just a week before the protective order was put in place, Panettiere was spotted holding hands with Hickerson. Hayden Panettiere reunited with Brian Hickerson after his case was dismissed 5 months after Brian Hickerson's domestic violence arrest. He and Hayden Panettiere were back together. In a blog post, the bride revealed that she wore a sensible, streamlined dress from So What Happened. According to People, the real estate agent's case was dismissed without prejudice in late September 2019, but the whole thing went bust on a technicality. Per People's report, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office was forced to dismiss the case because they couldn't come up with a material witness. In other words, Panettiere wouldn't testify, and she was likely the only person who witnessed the alleged crime besides the neighbors who reportedly called the police after hearing a scuffle. Crew and got her makeup done at Sephora. At one point, she even considered making her own wedding cake but scrapped the idea when she became a ball of stress while trying to finalize the wedding details and shop for Christmas gifts at the same time. When the case was dismissed, the protective order went with it, and Panettiere and Hickerson quickly reunited. She did, however, order her own cake topper, which never came. People confirmed that the on-and-off couple were back on the following month, and paparazzi spotted the pair walking with each other through an airport. It read, "Finally. Perfectly fitting for a marriage 10 years in the making, but they wouldn't have changed a thing. It was great that the kids were a little bit older," Daly told Today. A source told E! News that neither of them supported the protective order and it had been the only thing keeping them apart. Though the reunion reportedly concerned the Nashville star's family, Panettiere's attorney supported his client's decision. They actually knew what was going on. Pinter's eldest son Jack, who was 6 at the time, even walked his mom down the aisle. Carson Daly and Siri Pinter bring their kids to work. Carson Daly and Siri Pinter first met at work, so it only makes sense that work would become a family affair. Though Pinter has since moved on from Last Call, and the show aired its final episode in 2019, the couple's children still regularly find their way onto sets. Bringing the kids to work seemed like a regular thing for the former MTV VJ during his time on The Voice, where he served as a host and producer since 2011. He told People that the actress was a strong, intelligent woman who is capable of making her own decisions, but the happy reunion wouldn't last very long. Hayden Panettiere's family deeply disapproved of her relationship. Another tough spot with Hayden Panettiere's relationship was the way her family felt about her new beau. According to numerous reports, they didn't approve of Brian Hickerson, and it's not hard to imagine why they would, considering the litany of worrying press that's surrounded him for nearly the entirety of their relationship.
According to Us Weekly, her loved ones were reportedly extremely concerned that the actress may have still been contacting Hickerson despite the protective order. "It's disturbing to family and friends," a source told the magazine. The show was a full-circle moment for him and Christina Aguilera, who knew each other from way back in the days of TRL when Aguilera was still writhing around in chaps and braided lowlights. "My son and Christina Aguilera's son play together," Daly told People. Years later, Jack actually seems poised to follow in his father's footsteps. In April 2020, the child hosted NBC's Nightly News, Kids Edition, where he talked about homeschooling and the virtual safaris being held by the Cincinnati Zoo. "That was pretty cool. I'll tell you what, I'm really proud of the kid, just for getting up and working and not slacking off like it's summertime around here," Daly told Today. Carson Daly is afraid of loving his family too much. Love can be terrifying, especially after experiencing a painful loss, and Carson Daly isn't afraid to admit it. The former MTV VJ has never been shy about getting vulnerable on air and opened up about the aftermath of his mother's death during an episode of Today. In short, he made the heartbreaking admission that the overwhelming grief he felt from losing his mother made him afraid to love his children. Daly's mother, Patty, passed away in 2017 from a heart attack. He lost his stepfather, Richard, to bone cancer little more than a month later. 2 years after the gutting losses, guest host Hoda Kotb asked the star what his parents were proudest of. "My parents were overly proud," he told her. "I sometimes try to love my kids, I think, less, almost on purpose, because I'm so scared of loving them too much." Daly elaborated further, claiming his mother loved him almost too much and that when she died, he felt a huge void. "It hurt so much because I'm so bummed that that love isn't there anymore, and that's a byproduct of her love for me. There is not one single person out there who isn't concerned about Hayden. And that's the greatest gift you can give your kids," he said, adding, "It's a scary proposition, too. I find myself falling in love with my kids so much, and I almost want to put a little bit of a guard there out of fear." Mom life made Siri Pinter want to be a food blogger. Siri Pinter didn't fully realize her path in life until after she had kids. "What Brian did to Hayden is unacceptable behavior, and it's not to be tolerated." Following the couple's post-protective order reunion, an insider told People that Panettiere's family still weren't fans of Brian, largely because it was clear that he had issues of his own. The source added, not to mention the anger issues, which is obviously a big one. Another insider told E! News that Panettiere's friends and family were frustrated and disappointed that she'd get back with the real estate agent. As things devolved and Hickerson was arrested a second time for domestic violence, which we'll get to later, a source told Radar Online that Panettiere's family wanted the real estate agent behind bars. Brian Hickerson's family didn't approve of Hayden Panettiere. It wasn't just Hayden Panettiere's family who wanted Brian Hickerson out of the picture. Apparently, Hickerson's family didn't approve of the actress, either. A source that spoke to Us Weekly claimed the real estate agent's family was concerned for his safety when he is with Hayden. Particularly, they were reportedly terrified that he'd be accused of domestic violence. Again, shock, he was, but one could argue that maybe if you don't want to be accused of violence, you shouldn't do anything that may be viewed as domestic violence. Hayden and Brian are very toxic for each other, the source said. All that alleged toxicity didn't seem to mean a whole lot to Panettiere. Though she was previously working as a writing assistant on Last Call, she had no idea that she would eventually discover her love for food blogging when she started expanding her family with Carson Daly. In an interview with Long Island Press, the mother of 4 admitted that she decided to launch her blog Seriously Delicious when her son was born. "I was working in late-night television and I was producing segments. I missed writing, and then I decided to combine that with my love of food," she said. Starting a food blog wasn't like I was suddenly a foodie, it was more like, oh my gosh, I am in this domestic situation, how do people do it? At first, Pinter's blog was mostly a way to keep track of the meals she served her family and to exercise her sense of humor, but it evolved way past that. The writer has since released a cookbook named after her blog and regularly visits the Today kitchen to film cooking segments alongside her husband. They named their youngest kid after a pot of gold. What's in a name? Normally couples have a lengthy list of potential names for their babies, but by kid number 4, Carson Daly and Siri Pinter were a bit stuck for inspiration. For a short while, it looked like the couple were truly trying to better themselves. They ultimately didn't even end up naming their kid after a human, at least not totally. According to Radar Online, the pair quit drinking alcohol following Hickerson's 2019 arrest to reportedly ease the real estate agent's serious anger issues, which were allegedly exacerbated by drinking. Things got complicated with Hayden Panettiere's daughter. Hayden Panettiere's relationship gets even more complicated when you factor in her daughter, Kayla. It seemed like Brian Hickerson was driving a wedge between the mother-daughter duo, and a lot of this likely had to do with the fact that her ex, Wladimir Klitschko, reportedly didn't want the real estate agent around his kid. According to Us Weekly, Hickerson allegedly tested Vlad's patience and kindness. He reportedly believed his ex's new beau was a user and overall bad guy, who was controlling Hayden and enabling all of her bad habits. At the time, Kayla was living with him in the Ukraine, and he supposedly didn't want Hickerson near her. While they didn't go full-fledged Gwyneth Paltrow with a fruit-based name, let's just say that Goldie didn't come from the iconic actress Goldie Hawn or even Goldie Locks. During an episode of The Today Show, Daly admitted that the pair wanted to give their youngest daughter an Irish name to represent Daly's Irish heritage. When Hayden visits, it has to be without him, a source told the outlet. From the outside, it seemed like Panettiere at least partly agreed, though she didn't outright admit it. He had done an ancestry DNA kit, which was originally a Christmas gift from his sister, and it confirmed that he was 98% Irish. They browsed Irish baby names but ultimately landed on Goldie, derived from the idea of a lucky pot of gold, on St. A separate Us Weekly report from February 2019 claimed the actress hasn't had much time with her daughter, because she knows the child being with her is not the best for Kayla right now. The source said, "It's a sad situation." Brian Hickerson was arrested a second time for domestic violence less than a year after Brian Hickerson was first arrested for felony domestic violence. The real estate agent was cuffed yet again after an alleged dispute with Hayden Panettiere turned violent. This seemed to be the final straw for the Nashville actress. According to Us Weekly, who obtained the police records, the harrowing event happened around 2:30 a.m. Patrick's Day. "We had a short list of names that we liked, but nothing was sticking its neck out," Daly admitted. On Valentine's Day in February 2020, police received a concerned call and showed up at the house on Indian Springs Drive, where Hickerson was reportedly in the driveway claiming Panettiere was saying he beat the F***K out of me. He allegedly would not tell police whether or not he struck the actress, but after investigating, they believed he hit her with a closed fist on the right side of her face. Panettiere reportedly told police that he threw her around and punched her. As far as physical injuries go, the star's face was allegedly red and swollen, and she had a scrape and swelling on her left hand. Hickerson was ultimately hit with 2 charges, domestic battery and interfering with a police officer. The latter charge stemmed from when he reportedly refused to identify himself. At the time of this writing, Hickerson is out on a $5,000 bond, and it's not clear what will happen with his charges. "And I thought about it, this is our 4th kid." According to Radar Online, there were witnesses this time around, and Panettiere's family was attempting to show support for the actress and keep her from wavering in court. Hayden Panettiere is healing after her split. Despite the trauma Hayden Panettiere may have endured during her relationship, it seems like things are looking up. "She seems like the pot of gold at the end of our family rainbow." The pair also opted to honor Daly's late mother by giving Goldie the middle name Patricia, but despite the meaningful name, the tot now goes by the nickname Go-Go. With a love like this, who needs an award? In 2018, Carson Daly used his marriage to remind us to focus on what really matters. That year, The Voice was nominated for an Emmy Award in the reality competition category. Sadly, the program sashayed away without a prize when they were pummeled by RuPaul's Drag Race. Daly, however, didn't seem to sweat it. In an Instagram post, he claimed he'd already won. "Well, we may have lost the Emmy." In June 2020, multiple sources told Us Weekly that the actress has been thriving since her split from Brian Hickerson. "She's in a good place right now," one insider claimed. "But I am still the big winner, having the most incredible wife, mom and life partner, Siri Pinter, next to me," he wrote, posing next to his partner. "And as my mom would say in her Carolina drawl, she's not only purty on the outside, but on the inside too." Ah. If it's any consolation, Carson Daly did win 4 Emmy Awards for The Voice. According to Variety, the program was the second show to beat The Amazing Race since the reality competition category was created in 2003. After that many wins, who really needs another? Having a newborn in a pandemic actually eased Carson Daly's anxiety disorder in the past. Carson Daly has been open about his struggle with generalized anxiety disorder. She's on the path to recovery. The tabloid also confirmed that Panettiere officially cut ties with the real estate agent after their February altercation. This was a huge step forward from the year before, when her family worried that she was still communicating with Hickerson despite her temporary protective order. In an episode of Today, he admitted that he was always worrying when he was a child. They have reportedly not had contact since the final incident, and Hickerson allegedly moved back home to South Carolina, far away from Panettiere's home in Los Angeles. "My father died when I was 5. Friends are praying this is the end of her journey with him," the insider added. Those close to the actress aren't the only ones who noticed Panettiere was moving on. She joined Instagram again and was reportedly trying to start working and being creative again. A second source told Us Weekly that the actress has done a 180-degree turn since her terrible ordeal with Brian and was calmer and more relaxed. Here's looking to Panettiere's bright future. "I had an ulcer when I was in high school. I've been nervous my whole life," he said. In adulthood, the Daly's anxiety even led him to the hospital, fearing he was having a heart attack. Since then, Daly has learned how to cope better with the help of a cognitive therapist, but it still affects his day-to-day. "I've had heightened anxiety and mild panic attacks at the playground with my own children and wife there. The feeling was so gripping and so terrifying that literally I had to leave and excuse myself," he revealed. Things started to, quite unexpectedly, ease up a bit after the birth of Goldie. While most parents are stressed out and sleepless while caring for a newborn, much less caring for a newborn in the midst of global pandemic, Daly found a sense of calm. "It's fun to be able to wake up and not be like, oh my god, my life's upside down, but to hold the newborn instead," he told People. Similarly, Pinter dished to People that she felt kind of calm because Goldie was her 4th kid. "Usually, this would all cause the opposite feelings, but whatever works, right?"